Life feels different for Libra these days, like a familiar house suddenly making unfamiliar sounds late at night. Not loud, not violent at first, but enough to make you pause in the middle of what you were doing, enough to make you listen and quietly wonder if something is beginning to change. You may not be able to name it yet. You may still be telling yourself that everything is fine, but deep inside, you know this already. There is a movement unfolding, slowly, silently, rising from the very space you live in. It might be something ordinary. A morning when you wake up and the light in the room feels different. A conversation at home that leaves you quieter than usual. An old object being moved. A room being cleared. Or a small moment that seems insignificant, yet touches you in a way you cannot explain. For Libra, signals like these are never random. You are sensitive to energy, to imbalance, to what has not yet been spoken out loud. At first, the feeling is not fear. It is confusion, like standing in a familiar room, where everything appears shifted just a few inches from where you remember it. You try to organize your thoughts. You wonder what you may have missed. And in that silence, something deeply human appears. The feeling that you are standing at an invisible threshold. Many Libras are used to keeping the peace, holding things together, maintaining stability, even when it means setting aside your true feelings. But this time, your living space will not allow you to pretend that everything is the same. Something is asking to be seen. Something is asking to change. Not through force, but through a very gentle, very deep awakening. You may feel briefly disoriented, as if the inner compass within you is slowing down to rediscover its own true north. This is not a sign that you are lost. On the contrary, it is a sign that you have stopped at the right moment before continuing to walk unconsciously. Sometimes, life does not shake us to punish us. It shakes us to wake us up. And what makes this moment especially powerful is that the disruption does not come from the outside world. It comes from the place you call home, the place that once represented safety, the place that holds memory, routine, and your closest relationships. When that place begins to shift, you cannot ignore it. You cannot keep living the way you did before. And yet, this is exactly where healing begins. Dear Libra, if your heart slows down when you walk through the door, if you find yourself craving more silence than before, if your thoughts return again and again to family, to roots, to where you truly belong, please know this. You are not weak. You are listening. And that is a very rare form of strength. There are seasons in life when we do not need answers right away. We only need the courage to stay with the feeling, the honesty to admit that something is calling for our attention. Change does not always knock loudly. Sometimes it simply rests a hand on your shoulder and waits for you to turn around. And when you allow yourself to feel, without judgment, without rushing to fix anything, you begin to see that the initial confusion was never a mistake. It was the beginning of a new balance. A balance no longer built on pleasing everyone else, but on honoring the truth within you. Your living space is whispering a very clear message. Listen. Stay still for a moment. Something is being rearranged, not to take things away from you, but to prepare you to receive more. And when you allow yourself to remain in that moment, you begin to realize that this sense of unease is not unfamiliar. It is like a calm lake where gentle ripples suddenly appear. Not because a storm is coming, but because beneath the surface, the water is quietly changing direction. What is happening in your life is the same. On the surface, it may look messy, unsettled, but deep underneath, a new order is forming, slowly, intentionally. Libra has always been drawn to harmony. You tend to keep balance by yielding, by accepting, by smoothing things over rather than confronting them. But there are seasons when the old balance is no longer strong enough to support the person you are becoming. That is when life begins to shake the places you have learned to avoid, not to hurt you, but to make you look directly at what you have been sidestepping. Because without these tremors, you would stay in a space that feels safe, but has grown too small for your soul. You may be calling all of this trouble. Exhaustion, pressure from family, from your living environment, from relationships that once felt familiar, but now feel heavy. But if you slow down enough to observe, you will notice something important. None of this is happening at random. It is not arriving all at once without meaning. There is a pattern here. a very specific order. Each small detail seems to whisper the same message, that it is time to leave a state of stagnation you did not even realize you had been living in for far too long. Perhaps you have been living out of obligation, out of roles, out of a desire to keep everything calm. But deep down, you know you have not been fully present for a while. You grew accustomed to enduring what no longer fit, simply because it was familiar. And now, as things begin to shift, you finally feel the emptiness you have been trying to fill with busyness and silence. The strange thing is this: the more you resist the change, the more exhausted you feel. But when you stop trying to control it, when you stop asking why this is happening to you, a quiet relief begins to surface. Not because everything is resolved, but because you stop blaming yourself for what is unfolding. You begin to understand that there are chapters in life that do not need to be fixed immediately. They only need to be walked through with awareness and honesty toward your own emotions. What is shaking is not aimed at your true self. It is only loosening the layers you put on to survive. Old habits, attachments that no longer allow you to breathe deeply. And as each layer falls away, you may feel empty for a moment, exposed. But that emptiness is not loss. It is space. Space for something new to enter. Libra, this is not a mistake of fate. This is a necessary turning point. A moment when life decides it will no longer allow you to stand still. Not to throw you into chaos, but to guide you back to where you truly belong. A place where you do not have to strain to maintain balance. Because balance will form naturally the moment you begin living in alignment with the truth within you. And when you begin to realize this, even the days that once felt the hardest carry a very gentle light. A light that is enough to guide you forward without asking you to rush. That light does not arrive like a flash. It comes slowly, quietly, almost unnoticed. Like early morning, when mist still rests on the window, and you cannot yet tell where night ends and day begins. You start to hear words that once passed by unnoticed, now suddenly becoming clear. A conversation that seemed ordinary lingers much longer than expected. A small detail you once overlooked now stands still before you, impossible to ignore any longer. It may be a piece of information you come across by chance. It may be a document, a decision, or a confession spoken at a moment you did not anticipate. What matters is not its form, but the feeling that comes with it. The feeling of a final piece, sliding perfectly into place. No more confusion. No more asking yourself where you went wrong. What once felt unfair, what once made you question your own worth, now slowly reveals its true nature. For Libra, fairness is not just a moral idea. It is breath. It is the foundation that allows you to feel safe while living and connecting with the world. So when hidden truths begin to come into the light, you may feel your heart soften for just a moment. Not from pain, but from release. A deeply human kind of relief. At last, you are no longer carrying unanswered questions on your shoulders. There are truths that, once faced directly, leave you silent for a long time. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you are quietly reshaping the way you understand your past. You begin to see how often you blamed yourself, how much effort you put into maintaining balance in situations that were never fair to begin with. And now, you allow yourself to return everything to its rightful place. Order returns not through noise, but through very real changes. Relationships grow clearer. Boundaries form naturally. You no longer feel the need to over-explain. You no longer feel the need to prove anything. Fairness does not argue. It stands on its own once truth is acknowledged. And within that clarity, you begin to experience a different kind of peace. Not peace because everything is perfect, but peace because you are no longer living in doubt. You know where you stand. You know what deserves to stay. And you know what it is finally time to lay down. Life is no longer a fragile scale, teetering back and forth. It slowly becomes an ordered current, a steady flow, where every step you take carries weight, carries meaning, and most importantly, carries respect for who you are. Once the truth has been placed where it belongs, you begin to realize something important. The chaos you experienced before never intended to stay for long. It was like a strong wind moving through a suffocating room, tossing everything into the air for a moment, only to leave behind cleaner air, lighter air, easier to breathe. You look around and notice that you are still here, not swept away, not diminished in the ways you once feared, only changed in form, reshaped to better fit the person you are now becoming. There is a very distinct feeling that emerges during this time. The feeling of no longer reacting to life at every turn, no longer being pulled off course by sudden situations. You begin to move with intention, even in the smallest decisions. Days pass without the tension that once colored everything. The rhythm of life slows just enough for you to realize that you are standing on far steadier ground than you ever imagined. Libra has always searched for balance, but balance does not always mean keeping everything the same. Sometimes, true stability requires life to dismantle old structures, old systems of functioning that no longer serve who you are becoming. And when this restructuring takes place, even if it appears chaotic at first, the result is a deeper order, a more honest one. You begin to see your new direction, not through bursts of excitement, but through quiet certainty. There is no need to announce it, no need to prove anything. There is simply a knowing, a steady awareness that you are moving forward. Choices that once filled you with hesitation now feel clear. You understand what deserves priority. You know where you no longer need to return. This sense of grounding does not come from every problem disappearing. It comes from learning how to stand steady even while life is still in motion. You're no longer startled by small changes. You trust your ability to adapt. And within that trust, a deep sense of reassurance begins to spread, as if you have finally stepped into the lane that was meant for you all along. Nothing now demands that you rush. Nothing asks you to decide in haste. All that is required is that you keep walking with this awareness, with the understanding that the stability you feel is not temporary. It is a new foundation, built from the very experiences that once left you feeling most uncertain. And from that foundation, the road ahead begins to reveal itself more clearly, bright enough for you to keep moving forward without needing to look back. Something interesting happens when you stop trying to hold on to what has already passed. Life begins to respond to you differently, not loudly, not in a rush. It feels like a door, opening at the exact moment you are ready to walk through it, no longer carrying old baggage. The days after the upheaval take on a new rhythm of breath, lighter, deeper. And in that quiet, you begin to realize something important. You have not lost anything. You have simply stepped away from a place that was no longer meant for you. Libra does not receive rewards in a hurry. Your rewards arrive in subtle ways. They do not fall directly into your hands. They slowly reveal themselves after your perspective has shifted, after you have found the courage to step out of what was familiar, even while your heart still held some longing. You may have been forced to leave a living space, a job, a role, or even an old version of yourself. And in that moment, you may have wondered whether leaving was truly worth it. Then one day, very ordinary, you realize you are standing somewhere else. No need to prove anything. No need to brace yourself. Just a clear, quiet sense that you are being welcomed. Perhaps an opportunity appears when you are no longer searching for one. A small offer that unexpectedly opens a much larger door. Money, resources, or support arriving from a place you never anticipated. And you understand then that this is not random luck. This is life responding to the moments when you chose to leave even before you could see the path ahead. The most beautiful part of this reward is not its material value. It is the feeling of being acknowledged. Acknowledged for your silent efforts, for the nights you doubted yourself, for the times you chose restraint over reaction, dignity over holding on. Life, in its own quiet way, has noticed everything. And when the timing is right, it gives back to you without holding anything back. You may find yourself smiling softly when you look back on that chapter. No bitterness, no regret. Only a deep understanding that if you had not left when you did, you could not be standing where you are now. Every change in environment, position, or circumstance was never meant to take away your safety. It was meant to expand your boundaries, to show you that you are capable of standing steady in far more places than you once believed. Libra, some rewards do not arrive to overwhelm you. They arrive to reassure you that your choice was right, that your patience was not meaningless, that the path you are walking, even if it looks different from the crowd, holds its own quiet light. And within that sense of reassurance, you begin to trust your next decisions more deeply. You no longer look at life with eyes that are waiting. You look at it with readiness, ready to receive what is good, ready to open your heart to new connections, ready to allow yourself to enjoy what you have earned without guilt, without doubt. You understand now that you do not need to struggle to be worthy. You have been worthy for a very long time, and as you pause in this moment, feeling a sense of fullness spreading from within, you begin to see that the greatest reward is not only what you have received, but who you have become through it all. A Libra who is steadier, more confident, and finally, lighter at heart. And it is from that very change that new connections begin to form, that familiar hands slowly reach out, as if life itself is quietly reminding you that you have never been walking alone. And then you notice something unexpected. The relationships that once drained you no longer surround you the way they used to. In their place, there is a slower, warmer presence. People who truly understand you, or at least are willing to listen without asking you to become someone else. It may be family, those who have been there for so long that their value was easy to overlook. Or it may be someone you once thought had grown distant, only to realize they were waiting for you to grow so you could meet again at a new point of connection. Healing within relationships does not arrive through loud apologies or dramatic conversations. It comes through the smallest moments. A quiet meal, a thoughtful question asked at the right time, a look that no longer carries judgment. You begin to feel the shift in how people are with you. Less tension, less performance. Everything becomes more natural, as if everyone has grown tired enough to finally choose honesty over effort. There are relationships that once seemed worn beyond repair. Long distances, unspoken misunderstandings, silences layered so thick you believed the story had ended long ago. But when you change, when you stop trying to control or fix other people, something quietly miraculous happens. New energy begins to flow into old bonds, not to return them to what they once were, but to allow them to be reborn in a different form. Healthier, stronger, more sustainable. Libra, you have a deeply beautiful heart. But there were times when you gave too much, forgetting to leave yourself room to breathe. Now, you are learning how to love without abandoning yourself. And that alone is what allows the right people to stay. You no longer have to guess who is truly on your side. Their presence is clear. They do not need to speak loudly. They do not need to make promises. They simply show up, especially when you need them most. You begin to understand that real connection does not come from being together all the time, but from the sense of safety that comes with being fully yourself. Family is no longer a place of heavy obligation, but a place you can return to and restore your energy. Close relationships no longer require you to hold everything in balance, because each person now stands firmly on their own ground. And within that steadiness, you feel your heart soften, no longer guarded, no longer defensive. You allow yourself to trust again, slowly, carefully. Trust that not everyone will hurt you. Trust that some people choose to walk beside you not out of duty, but because they genuinely want to. You look around and realize you were never as alone as you once believed. The connections are there, quiet, steady, like markers along a long road. They do not pull you backward. They do not push you forward. They simply remain, close enough for you to know that when you need to rest, there is always a place where you are supported. And it is that feeling, so light, yet so real, that continues to guide you deeper into your own journey with a heart that has finally been warmed. When the heart is warm enough, you begin to hear your inner voice more clearly, no longer drowned out by other people's expectations, no longer lost in everyday worries. That voice does not rush you, and it does not scold you. It simply asks a quiet question, one you have avoided for a long time. Are you truly in the place meant for you? And even though the question is whispered, it carries a weight you can no longer pretend not to hear. Two feelings rise at the same time. One is the safety of the familiar, the roads you have walked long enough to know every turn, the relationships, the habits, the roles that allow you to move through life without thinking too much. The other feeling is more fragile, yet strangely alive. It is the pull to step outside, into a space you cannot fully imagine yet, but somehow know you would breathe more freely there. Libra hesitates, not because of a lack of courage, but because you see too many possibilities at once. You weigh them, you analyze them, you think about how your choice will affect the people around you. And in doing so, you sometimes forget to listen to what you truly need. This time is different. This time, the silence has lasted long enough for you to understand something clearly. Not choosing is also a choice, and it is keeping you still while life is ready to move. Fear begins to take shape. The fear of losing what you have, the fear of disappointing others, the fear of choosing wrong. But beneath all of these fears is a deeper, very human one. The fear that if you do not change now, you will look back one day and regret not giving yourself a chance. This fear is not loud, but it is persistent, and it does not leave until you are willing to face it. You do not need every answer to move forward. You only need the honesty to admit that the familiar place, even though it feels safe, no longer nourishes the person you are becoming. Leaving does not mean rejecting the past. It is simply a way of respecting your present. What once fit has completed its purpose. Now, it is time to allow yourself to move forward with gratitude, not guilt. The moment you begin to seriously consider change, something very subtle happens. You no longer feel pushed, you feel invited. Not by grand promises, but by a sense of relief when you imagine a new space, a new rhythm of life, where you no longer have to shrink to fit. And in that quiet pause, you understand something essential. Fear is not the enemy. It is simply the final gate that needs to be opened. On the other side is not absolute certainty, but something far more real. Freedom. The freedom to live closer to who you truly are. The freedom to choose without asking permission. As you stand at that threshold, your heart beats faster, but it no longer trembles. Because for the first time in a long while, you know this. No matter which path you choose, you are choosing yourself. And in that very moment, when the decision is made not out of panic, but out of quiet clarity, life begins to move in a different way. There are no longer questions hanging in the air, no longer the feeling of being pulled backward. Everything shifts as if an invisible gear has finally clicked into place, allowing the whole system to run smoothly again. You do not need to run, you only need to walk, and with every step, you are supported. Libra will feel this clearly. A warm current of energy moves into even the most ordinary days. You wake up feeling lighter, less burdened. There is no longer pressure to become a version of yourself designed to please the world. What you do begins to produce results in a natural way. Perhaps good news arrives sooner than expected. An opportunity opens right when you are finally ready. A new connection appears quietly, yet carries a sense of trust from the very beginning. Fate does not turn through magic. It turns the moment you stop resisting yourself. When you dare to move forward, even without seeing the entire path, life responds with unmistakable signs. You feel supported in places that once felt blocked. Old efforts begin to bear fruit. Good things arrive not to test you anymore, but to stay. Joy does not explode. It spreads. It lives in the small details. A peaceful afternoon. A conversation that leaves you smiling long after it ends. A moment when you realize you no longer have to overextend yourself just to be acknowledged. Fulfillment is no longer a distant goal. It exists in the way you breathe, in the way you move through life with genuine trust. You begin to feel that you are on the right path, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer moving against yourself. This feeling of alignment is difficult to describe, but once you touch it, you never confuse it. It is like placing your feet on solid ground after a long journey. You know you can continue, not through force, but through stability. And then you understand something clearly. Everything that came before, the upheaval, the confusion, the leaving, the difficult decisions, was never punishment. It was preparation. The old cycle has completed its role. The new one arrives not to test you further, but to allow you to live more fully with what you truly deserve. Libra, the light you are feeling does not come from the outside. It comes from the courage to be honest with yourself. Luck is not something that falls by accident. It is the result of choosing at the right moment. Joy is not something you have to chase. It appears when you stop losing your way. And in this quiet, beautiful stillness, you can trust this truth. You are in the right place, at the right time. In a new cycle opening so perfectly, it feels as though it had been waiting for you to be ready.